Get your mics. Good evening. I'm going to call tonight's meeting of the County Council to order. I want to thank you all for being here with us tonight as we do the business of the county. We appreciate your investment in the county government and the way it functions and works. At this time, I'm going to ask Councilman Alex Seda if he would please lead us in the invocation and the pledge.
Heavenly Father, we know the greatest wisdom always comes to those who choose to follow, serve, and honor you. Be with each councilman tonight as he exercises wisdom this evening. May we honor you through our discussion, debate, and votes, and may the result of our decisions truly benefit the citizens of Pickens County. God, bless our troops around the globe, states and stateside, as well as our law enforcement officers. In particular, Lieutenant John Stewart of Lake City Police Department, South Carolina, and Police Officer Melton Gore of Horry County Police Department, South Carolina, both killed in the line of duty this past year. In your loving name, Jesus, dear Lord, we pray, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 2 on tonight's agenda is public forum. This is an opportunity for the public to give us feedback on issues that you deem important. Madam Clerk, please call our first speaker.
Mr. Chairman and members of council, I call Jerry Knox.
I haven't spoken to the council before. I would have rather gone last, so I had an idea. Briefly, I'm concerned about the standards of bringing garbage into the county. Greenville has a higher standard than Pickens County. Seems like to me it'd be better to have the same because I live half a mile from the river. And so I made the mistake of letting a young man use my property. He dumped 26 loads of wood scraps on my place, including poison oak and stuff like that. And we live in an area with I think we have the most different types of wildlife anywhere else in the world, plant life at least, don't we? It's very high anyway, we have a lot of, we need to protect that. And simply having a standard as high as Greenville would help. It would keep people from bringing garbage across the county line, particularly my place. I have a little farm right on the edge of it. But that's my concern. I'm open to questions, but I don't know what to particularly say.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Brian Giswhite.
Thank you for your time. My name is Brian Giswhite. I'm here tonight to speak on the behalf of the homeowners and taxpayers of the Paradise Cove, Alex Drive area in Pickens County concerning the recent sale of 115 Paradise Cove, a single-family home in our neighborhood that is going to be turned into a drug rehabilitation center. As a small, quiet residential community, we were shocked to hear the news that a single-family home on a cul-de-sac street can be transformed into a drug rehab facility without any of our input or knowledge. We were all firmly against such a facility being placed in our neighborhood. We were not presented or notified about this in advance. We were just concerned about what kind of zoning regulations there were for this. Was the county council presented a business plan for such a venture? Are the health and fire safety protocols being implemented? We have specific questions about the facility, like how long has it been in business? You know, are they a for-profit organization? What's their documented success or failure rate? What type of facility is this? Is it just for drug offenders? Or is it like one of these safe injection sites? Or are sex offenders allowed there, you know? As you can imagine, we have safety concerns for the children and the elderly and the incapacitated who live just feet away in our neighborhood. We were wondering, would we be expecting to see like a higher police presence monitoring the area? Will they have camera monitoring? who's coming and going? Will there be an increased traffic at all hours of the day and night? What kind of accessibility are the clients, afforded? Do they live on site long term? Do they have curfews, or do they just come and go as they plan or as they please? Are the counselors trained and accredited, or are they just volunteers? The safety of my family and my neighbors is my primary concern, but obviously this could clearly have a negative impact on our property values and make our homes more difficult to sell should we see fit. I understand how addiction impacts people's lives. I have a family member who's battled addiction her whole life, well, most of her life. She had the opportunity to participate in a rehab facility like this one. She chose the rehab, but the facility, quickly she realized that drugs were more readily available because everybody there it's like a network, they just have more access to other people with more drugs. She eventually, once she saw what was going on, she decided to go to, can I just say one more sentence and it'll be done?
Quickly.
In closing, we believe Second Chance Act, but we also believe that placing a facility in a residential neighborhood will negatively impact our safety and our quiet community.
Thanks, sir.
Ernest Spearman. Ernest Spearman. Deborah Hudson.
Preserving freedom needs to be done at the local level. Many of us think that less government is better. So I'm wondering, could the comprehensive plan that the Planning Commission just voted on for you to consider give you too much of an invitation to micromanage our lives? At the January planning meeting, I shared my opinion that the plan was purposely much too vague, leaving the door wide open in the next 10 years for unspecified progressive agendas. Embedded in the plan, I also found it odd we were paying thousands for a group called Appalachian Council of Governments to do a study on Highway 11. Isn't it better to keep decisions local regarding our land and accountable to local input? I also suggested that some of the infrastructure being set up here and most other places in America could be used to limit our privacy and freedom of movement in the future. Some may mock this, but only time will tell whether we allow infrastructure and technology to be used for tyranny or freedom. Only 70 people out of 126,000 living in Pickens County gave input on the comprehensive plan for the future, either because they were unaware or possibly apathetic. I've come up with a few reasons why people may be apathetic or discouraged about getting involved. Could it be that they are naively trusting, like I did, that public officials would do what is in the best interest of their fellow citizens? Or maybe they feel like a 3-minute timer is demeaning and are intimidated by the atmosphere in government settings. Perhaps they think that if they present their ideas and concerns, you will listen but not really understand, and thus might you have a role in creating the apathy. When a citizen does passionately care about something serious, do you label them an activist and marginalize them? Case in point, Janelle Raines, a spokesperson for many years for the conservative citizens in Pickens, wrote a letter and presented a conservative plan for the future to the Planning Commission. I would expect it to be worthy of some consideration and some feedback instead of just sticking it in the appendix, as was done by the Planning Commission. I'm hoping that this council will read and compare the content of a conservative plan written at no cost by people that really live in Pickens to the cookie-cutter plan written by a liberal company in Georgia that cost the taxpayers $90,000. The conservative plan may lack all the pretty pictures and diagrams, but it has the conservative concepts that Pickens was built upon all these years. I have to wonder, are the plans for the future about meeting the needs of real families living in Pickens, or about conforming our town to fit a master plan of economic development and control by non-elected government entities like the Appalachian Regional Commission? I encourage you to do a little research on that. Sadly, bureaucracy runs deep, but maybe it will take just a few good men or women to resist it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of council, this concludes the public forum.
Thank you, ma'am. Item 3 on tonight's agenda is approval of minutes. I'll ask for a motion approving the minutes for the February 7th, and the February 22nd special called meeting.
So moved.
Have a motion, have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion over the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 4 on tonight's agenda, Administrator's Report. Mr. Roper.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, a couple of items, I guess a handful of items I want to update you on, things that are going on with county government so that the public will be aware and you all will be aware. The first thing, rather than get into statistics and everything, my assistant notices today, last year on the 1-year anniversary of the first case of COVID in Pickens County, our building maintenance, grounds maintenance crews planted jonquils, 1 bulb for each person who had passed away in Pickens County during COVID-19. And so today we noticed that the jonquils had bloomed again, which reminded us here of those folks in Pickens County. The number's grown, but thankfully is not still growing in the sense that we're seeing the numbers starting to come down. But regardless, we're very heartened to see those numbers come down, but we were also reminded today of the folks that we've lost, and in addition, being one of our own, Mike Hayes. And so we wanted to show you the jonquils, so when you left or when other members of the public came, they were planted with COVID-19 deaths in mind. And they'll be there annually, we hope. At some point, I guess we'll dig and divide and put them in other locations, and we can continue to remember them through the years. But I wanted to point that out to you. The other thing I wanted to tell you about is you gentlemen said is kind of your first priority to look at what we need to do countywide to modernize and standardize our radio system. After you had set that as your number 1 priority for the ARPA funding process, we placed this out, request for proposals, and TUSA Consulting out of Virginia were the folks that were the successful bidders, so to speak, on that. And I wanted to let you know that we've instructed them to move forward with all due haste to get on the ground and get going, because that program, that radio program, is something that y'all see as your first priority, and you're waiting to look at other priorities until we get a good handle on what that's going to be. So I wanted to let you know that they're going to be on the ground here in Pickens County next week starting their work, and we envision that being about a 60-day process. So I just wanted to let you all know that we're not going to let any moss grow on us on that process, since you all have set that as your number 1 priority. Jonquils are blooming. The temperatures are starting to warm. In Pickens County this year, it means that we're going to be fixing some roads. You all passed the appropriate funding mechanism for us to address our roads in a timely manner, and so I wanted to update you on things that are going to start happening here in the next few days. First is our 2021-2022 Reclamation and Rehabilitation and Guardrail Upgrade Project. King Asphalt won the bid on that. It's budgeted for just over $2 million. It's going to pave 8 miles of road. That's 16 lane miles, which is both sides of the road, which surprises me. That's the way they describe that. 8 miles of road seems like 8 miles of road to me. But it's 8 miles of road and over 1,000 feet, over 1,200 feet of guardrail to be upgraded and added. The budget for that, as I said, is a little over $2 million. Bakerville Road, City Lake Road, Jewel Merck Road, Rice's Creek Road, North Old Mill Road. Those will be getting paved here in just the next few weeks. People will notice that this is a reclamation and rehabilitation, so this is the grinding it up, and they'll see us grind the whole road up. But that's not all. With the funding that you all have provided, we also have the program that was in place with the CTC committee. It's 4 miles, 8 lane miles of road. Budget's $1.3 million, but we're managing that here. Our engineering department will be managing that. It's Gilstrap, Slickham, Pine Knoll Drive, and Ford Road. But that's not all. Also, with the funding that you all have provided, we're bidding this out here in the next couple of weeks. Will be an additional 10 miles with a budget of $2.76 million to do the 10 miles and 800 feet of guardrail. Depending on how the budget comes back, the next roads on the priority list are Cedar Rock, Church Road, Hudson Road, Owings, Wilson Way, Davis Road, Little Crow Creek, Raxter Drive, and Hamburg and Turner Road. So those are the next ones up on the list, and we'll see how far we can get. But all told, just this spring, through a combination of county transportation committee and the road maintenance fund that you all established, $6.18 million worth of paving going on, 18 roads impacted in the county, 22 miles of road, and over 2,000 feet of guardrail. So we want to keep you updated on that. We encourage the public to follow along as we continue, as we say, kicking asphalt on this program over the coming months. And I think you'll see that we'll set up another round for summer, and we'll keep going from there. So gentlemen, thank you for what you did. And the public can go to fixingcountyroads.com to follow along with both the budget, also to follow along with the roads that are on the list, and to also report problems that they might be having. So we just want to encourage you there to keep you up to date on what's happening with the county roads. Another bit of exciting news is the Pickens County Airport. For many years, the FAA has noted this, and our local airport directors have noted this. You have probably noticed it. Across the road from the airport, there are these gigantic pine trees. And for years, it has been a problem that they've gotten in the way of the flight pattern. Planes have to go around them. They have to go over them. It's something that the property owner would never consent to us addressing. Well, because of our airport director keeps an eye on these things, he noticed that the property changed hands, and so we offered to the new property owner to remove some of his nuisance trees right after the last ice storm, and we were able to get the state aeronautics contractor to come and do that for a good bargain. And I apologize, I'm using her phone to do this. I apologize, I keep flipping back. But the neat thing about this photo is not only are we getting all those trees out of the way, we're solving a problem that's been a problem for 15 years. The minute that our airport director snapped this picture, there was a plane going overhead, so you could see the shadow of the plane there. I thought that's a pretty neat photo. But you'll see those improvements as you go down 178 towards Liberty, and you'll notice on the left at that mobile home park that a lot of those nuisance trees will now be gone. So we're very excited about that. Similarly, with our airport, with our LQK airport, we have soft opened without a lot of fanfare the new playground out there. The reason that we have soft opened that playground is because we're going to do a couple of other upgrades to it. And also we're excited because the Scoop in 6 Mile is now opening up a satellite location there at Project Arnold. So you'll be able to come to the playground, get ice cream, get a hot dog, watch the planes take off and land. We think it's going to be a very good thing. But the Scoop took possession of their part of that property today and are starting upfits, and they've asked if we would just wait a couple of weeks for them to get their business up and going there before we have what we anticipate to be some pretty big success problems down there. Between planes, swings, and ice creams, we think this is going to be a very popular thing. I'll note that that's a completely handicap accessible playground, including a swing that is completely handicap compliant. So we're excited about that. We'll do a more formal open once the Scoop is up and going and invite you all for that. So we're very excited. This was mentioned a little bit tonight, but if anyone's interested in participating in our Highway 11 corridor study on March the 10th at 5 o'clock at the Holly Springs Center up near Highway 11, we're having another stakeholder meeting as we work towards sort of closing out this study. We're still trying to get more public input, so we recommend that to you. We'd also ask you all, gentlemen, and the public to save the date, March 18th at 11 a.m. That's a Friday at the Grant Meadow Overlook. The Pickens County Historical Society will be unveiling another historical marker here in Pickens County. We're going to kind of use that unveiling to also dedicate our 2 benches, also to formally open our park. So you all are invited to that event as well. Gentlemen, that concludes my formal report, but I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Roper. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Ripper?
So, gentleman mentioned the drug rehab facility that going into the house there in his neighborhood. Looking at the DSO and other areas, I didn't quite see how that would be managed and whether or not there's some sort of an oversight or authority that looks at those things before they're placed. Can you give us a little better idea what you think?
Yes, sir. I'm familiar with the facility, the effort that's going in there because planning staff alerted me to it. It's a facility like that is not licensed or regulated in any way by the county. As long as it stays, within a 1 residential piece of property, it wouldn't implicate our development standards ordinance anyway. But facilities like that are generally regulated by DHEC. Those are the facilities, the regulatory agency. We made contact with DHEC based on the citizen complaint because we knew it was concerned to them. We called down to DHEC, and DHEC said they had no procedure in place because it was a faith-based organization. So we don't really have a solution, although we're still looking to see what we can. The owners of the facility, we've been in contact with them, and they seem open to trying to take some reasonable steps, and they also seem open to open up communication to answer a lot of these questions. So we'll continue trying to get that information and give it back to the citizens who are concerned. It's called the Alabaster House Recovery for Women. I've got a website and everything else I can give y'all after the meeting.
Councilwoman Hurst.
It seems like several years ago, when we were doing the road stuff, we had, and I don't know if it's still on the website, we've had several studies on our roads, and we just completed one, I guess, a year ago, categorizing the roads and where they were and when they would be paved. Do we still have that?
We call it the PCI, the Pavement Condition Index list. We still have that list. We still use that list. Quite frankly, it's time to update that list, but we didn't want to delay what we're doing, so we're going off that list for another year or two, another cycle or two, and then we'll look at updating it again, but that list exists.
Well, I know, but we had it at one time. I thought we had it on the web, so people, on our site, so people could go and see when their road was going to be coming up. And I know there's changes as people do construction and stuff, but it gave people an idea to know, okay, when is my road going to be done?
I think you can still access the PCI list on the Roads and Bridges website. If not, it's easy enough for us to put it there.
But it has the category, but not which ones are being done, how they're going to do that.
Mm-hmm. We maintain that list, and you can see it if you go to the website. It's color-coded. The next one's up for us. So the next couple of cycles, you can see those.
So they can see what's coming up past what we've just got here.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's all on our website now.
That's correct.
Okay, I thought it was. I just wanted to make sure and people understood as they're wanting to find out.
That's right. So the PCI list is also public, and so I'll double check to make sure that's out there too, because different people receive data different ways. I like a good picture. Some people like a good spreadsheet. So different ways for different folks.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Sater.
Are the litter control officers any closer to being trained to become advanced 3 class officers?
Yes, they haven't taken any subsequent academy. They haven't taken any classes at the academy, but they're going through their in-house training. That's something that we will have to request. I met with their director just this past week and was asking the same questions. We need to get a schedule so that we can publish that and show it.
Do you have a timeline?
It's supposed to be less than a year process, but I don't have a date that they'll start that next step yet.
Okay. Is there any way I can get a list of the citations that were written by the litter control officers and how the magistrate dealt with them?
Yes, sir.
With each citation?
Yes, sir. Actually, that record's available online, and I can help you with that.
Yes, I'd like that. And also, the litter on the roads is I think it's the worst it's been since I've been here in 21 years. Are we going to see a plan in the budget on hiring employees full-time to actually pick up litter?
Will you see a plan in the budget to do that? The answer to that is no. What you will see, though, and I meant to include this in my administrator's report, is we're going through a review right now. And we intend to announce here in a couple of weeks in a very formal way what we will do with existing revenue that you've given us, what we'll do with existing staff you've given us, to have a comprehensive review of our entire litter program. We're not going to have inmates. We're starting to acknowledge and accept that. But we're not ready to announce all the details, but I'll give you this one bit of information. We've reached an agreement with the solicitor's office. If we're not going to have inmates, we're going to start using PTI, community service workers, to pick up trash along county roads. So we're looking at several different enforcement mechanisms, which you all have funded, volunteer mechanisms, which you all have supported in the past. We're looking at perhaps the Adopt a Highway program being something that we could manage more readily than DOT. And then we're also looking at community service workers to pick up trash, because I agree with your assessment. I've never seen it worse.
Yeah. So nothing on full-time litter crews?
No. I mean, we're not to the point yet of me committing to what we would do, because we'll have to look at that in terms of priorities. What we're doing right now is with existing funds, we're going to come up with a comprehensive program.
Okay.
Councilman Waters.
I have one more question I forgot to ask. Where are we on the status of our prison project where we're converting that over to that rehab center? We've been talking about this for almost a year. I know there was supposed to be some stuff where you were looking at the building. We talked about this several weeks ago. Can you give me an update where we are?
I sure can. I can tell you that since I sent the letter to Reverend Moss and he came back and spoke to you all, when he came back and spoke to you all, I think there were 15 things that we needed to know, like what employees would you have, how would you provide meals, things like that we wanted to know before we took the next step. Of those 15 things, he had some answers to some of them. You'll remember he had accomplished that, but there were some that he had not accomplished. I met with him down at the Stockade back in September of last year, and then also met Councilman Sater down there in October. Went back for a subsequent meeting with them later in October with him and with a couple of his volunteers to talk about some of the other things we still needed. And at that time, I went beyond what you all had instructed me, and I asked for, I guess, forgiveness for that. I went beyond and offered to help him with some of the things on that 15 list. And at the time committed I would get that to him before the holidays, but with workflow and other things that were going on, I was not able to do it. But I can tell you, Mr. Whitehurst, we have that packet of information with options, with plans forwards. We have that ready for him now. My assistant, Jessica's making some final tweaks to that to make it better, and it'll go out this week.
Okay, so we've got the options available that we had talked about.
Yes, sir.
And something he can give to him. And we get a copy of that as well?
Sure, yes.
Okay. And when is that going to go out?
This week.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions, comments for Councilman Administrator Roper? I about messed you over, bub. All right. Hearing nothing further, we'll move on with tonight's agenda and go to item number 5, committee report. The Committee of the Whole met on Tuesday, February 22nd in the main conference room here in the admin building. Log number 80 and 182, County Radio System and Unified Dispatch System. There was no action taken by the committee. Log number 181 was discussion on ordinance for referendum regarding Sunday alcohol sales in Pickens County. Vice Chairman Costner made a motion to move out of committee for first reading in title only. Motion was seconded by Councilman Feimster and carried 5-1. Councilman Sater was opposed. No seconds required as this comes from a recommendation from the committee. Any discussion?
When would this referendum be?
Sir?
When would this referendum be?
It would be in the general election in November. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Thank you. Log number 195 was the next item, discussion of ordinance to combine Construction Board of Appeals and Zoning Board of Appeals. Councilman Sater made a motion to move out of committee for third reading of this ordinance. Motion was seconded by Councilman Feimster and carried unanimously. No seconds required as it comes from a recommendation from the committee. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Thank you, gentlemen. Log number 194, council redistricting. Councilman Whitehurst made a motion to move proposal number 2 out of committee for second reading. Motion was seconded by Councilman Feimster and carried unanimously 6-0. This was voted on in the special call meeting that directly followed this committee meeting. And that was the end of the Committee of the Whole report. Item 6 on tonight's agenda is council correspondence. The Committee of the Whole meeting will be on Monday, March 21st at 6 o'clock in the main conference room of the admin building. The next council meeting will be on Monday, April 4th, 6:30 here in council chambers. Are there any other correspondence that need to be announced? Hearing none. Item 7 on tonight's agenda, motion period new business. We're now at our motion period, our time for motions and new business. Does anyone have any motions to be made at this time? Hearing none, we'll move to item number 8 on tonight's agenda, 2021 presentation of Pickens County Pinnacle Performer Award. Mr. Roper, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council. We're at a time of the year where we're excited to announce our Pinnacle Performer of the Year award. If you'll recall, this was an award that was set up by County Council a couple of years ago, where it's a peer-nominated award. Basically, what happens is other county employees nominate you, and they nominate you because of your attitude, your work ethic, your instance of saving the county money, the way you've demonstrated what it really means to be a public servant. And we give the award away every month. It comes with a weekend stay at Mile Creek Park. It comes with a small cash, $100 incentive payment. But then what that means is once you are one of the 12, you're entered into the grand final competition to be named the Pinnacle Performer of the Year. That includes a 2% pay raise. So that carries a real incentive. You receive a pay raise if you're selected as the Pinnacle Performer of the Year. In this case, we're lucky to have 2 people that have made it this far. What I would propose that we do is we bring them up front, and we're going to allow them to fight it out to see who will be the actual winner. My money is on Harold. He's just meaner. So that's what I would propose we do. But I'm proud to have these 2 people that work for our building maintenance department. Harold Young and Michael Whitlock are our winners for this year. They're joint winners. We haven't determined yet whether they have to split the 2%. We're going to talk to finance about that, see how that works out. But the thing about Harold and Michael is it's hard to characterize how much money they have actually saved Pickens County. In the, I guess, 3 or 4 years they've worked together as a team. When we need construction projects done, small construction projects, they're working on one right down the hall right now to make planning more accessible to the public, to put windows for them to be able to serve more customers. When we have projects like that, they are unmatched in being able to do those projects. And we're very proud of the quality they do, the fact that we don't have to put this out to bid or bring some outside contractor in to do it. We can do these construction jobs in-house, and they do a wonderful job. So we're very proud of that value they bring to the county. But I'll tell you why I love these 2 guys, and I say love. They are not impressed by me at all. They quite frequently tell me what I am and am not doing correctly, usually the minute I walk up to them. So I really appreciate the way that they have good camaraderie, good esprit de corps, and how they're not at the least bit intimidated by the administrator. So, gentlemen, on behalf of County Council, because this is your selection, I would like to recognize Michael Whitlock and Harold Young as the 2021 Pickens County Pinnacle Performers of the Year, and ask that they step forward. Appreciate y'all, gentlemen. Let's get a picture. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
Now, I'll tell you that they, as an example, Mr. Chairman, if I could take just one more moment, they built, based on a sketch I did on a whiteboard, they built the trophy shelves back there. And then one of them pointed out that Gamecocks like me are used to empty trophy shelves, so we're going to have to get to work.
Gentlemen, I want to say thank you for your hard work and your dedication. When we were reviewing the Pinnacle Performers, it was obvious. The one thing that stuck out was that you guys do what you do with a wit, whatever it takes kind of attitude. And when we asked Mr. Ripper, what do they do? And the answer was, what do they not do? That's truly means a lot, and we appreciate all that you do for this county. Thank you. Item number 9 on tonight's agenda is update on economic development. Mr. Roper.
Gentlemen, I apologize I'm talking so much tonight. I did want to update you on some information from Alliance Pickens, kind of an annual update, looking back over the last year or so and some data at what Alliance Pickens has passed on to me. Seen some information's been offered in this room to downgrade or to belittle the economic condition in Pickens County, and I just want to make sure that we've got some facts in the record about that. So first thing, in comparing us to neighboring counties' unemployment rates, Pickens County right now, the unemployment rate is 2.9%, compared with Greenville County's, which is 2.8%. The unemployment in Anderson County is 3.0%, and in Oconee County, it's 3.0%. So in terms of the employment of our workforce, we stand up very, very well, very, very competitively with our neighbors. Similarly, the per capita hourly wage, if you take our workers and the hourly wage and look at what it is, Greenville County, it will probably not surprise you that it's roughly $25 is the per capita annual wage. Anderson and Pickens both are at $20 roughly, and then Oconee County, whose largest employer is Duke Energy, we'll point that out, is at 22. So we think we stack up well there, always want to improve it, always want to keep working on improving it, but those are the real numbers. The gross domestic product, this is interesting to me because this is in thousands. The gross domestic product, and they talk about 1,000 chain 2012. This is something Department of Commerce does. It's this year's numbers, or last year's numbers. It's in thousands, so it's 3,534,000,000 thousands. So it's $3.55 billion is the domestic product of Pickens County. I think that's a neat number. It surprised me how high it was. But if you look at how it compares, Oconee County is 3.4, Anderson, significantly bigger, 6.4, and Greenville County, huge economic driver there, $28.6 billion GDP. I thought that was an interesting figure. A way to look at that is Pickens County by population is the 14th largest in the state, and we're 15th in GDP. The way I would look at that is that we're punching at our weight, particularly with some counties on the lower part of the state that are very heavy with tourism, like Beaufort and Berkeley, that are roughly our size. So I think that's good news and a favorable comparison. It's something we want to keep continuing to improve on, though. Talking about our workforce and where they work, 44% of our workforce are Pickens County residents. This surprised me a little bit. 56% of our workforce is actually folks that come from outside the county, drive into Pickens County to work. I thought that was interesting. Where Pickens workers live, 44%, we already knew that number from Pickens County, but they're 15% from Greenville County, 15% from Anderson, 9 from Oconee, 3 from Spartanburg, and 14 from other. More than 10% of our workers drive from somewhere other than those counties. That was a little surprising to me, but I would take that as a pretty good sign in terms of the jobs that we have available. And then where our Pickens residents work, 33%, a third of them work right here in Pickens County. 33% of them go to Greenville County, and I think you saw how strong that GDP number was, so it makes sense that they would. 10% in Anderson, 5% in Oconee, 4% in Spartanburg, and 15% in other. I thought that was interesting data. One thing that people talk about is, and we hear this from time to time, is our existing buildings. And I won't go through this whole list, but one thing Alliance Pickens spends more time than people give them credit is filling old buildings where an industry has moved out. An example would be under the Carolina Boone, Tritech, Pace Building, the Alice Aerial Building, Mohawk Carpet, which is the most recent one that just closed. You may know that's going to be a plastics recycling. We got King Asphalt into the vacant Kmart building. A development you're going to hear more and more about is the Alice Aerial Plant, the one right there on Highway 8. Has been purchased by Farpoint Developers, and they have some plans there. Hanvey moving into the old Perception Kayak. Project Efficiency, Mr. Whitehurst, right there in your district, although I drive by it on my way to Lowe's all the time, they've started cleaning up that property there because they're moving in. They're going to make windows in that property, so we're excited about that. You'll remember US Waffle, and then Books for Less up at the Ellison plant. 1.8 million square feet of industrial space that's been refilled through the last 2 or 3 years. The Pickens County Commerce Park, however, the people identify the Commerce Park so closely with Alliance Pickens, but you just in the past year or two, you've completed the sewer line extension serving those 2 sites. One was filled almost immediately by Peabody Engineering, another 45,000 square feet of manufacturing space. They do rotational molding of plastic tanks. Their jobs are $20+ an hour, so above the county average right there with Peabody Engineering. Obviously, you all know this map. You've been looking at this map for years. As it's filled in, there's one site left, Site A1. But you all have made provisions, and obviously not anything we're ready to announce or talk about, but you've made provisions with some strong votes here over the last 6 months or so to where we're going to be able to talk about some other alternatives in the near future. So I thank you for that. But the Commerce Park stands as a good testament to what Alliance Pickens is doing. As we mentioned, one site's remaining. There are 11 buildings totaling 1.2 million square feet of construction on the Alliance Pickens site, generating approximately 1.1 in property tax revenue, employing about 1,700 folks, and $86 million in direct payroll. That's excluding some of the benefits, which we can't track. Another way to look at that is before we developed the Pickens County Commerce Park, it generated $297 a year in property taxes. That was just the raw land, agricultural. Now it generates $1.1 million in property taxes annual to Pickens County, and that's even with the FELOs, the fee and lieu. So that's a good thing. Mr. Farley is of course proud and rightfully proud of the Scholar Technician Program. You all are familiar with the Scholar Technician Program, where we try to demonstrate to outside folks that our school district, our Career and Technology Center, is making people, as Mr. Farley says, of nimble mind and hand. I've been in the room, I was in the room when he pitched this program to Peabody Engineering. I've been in the room when he's pitched it to other folks. It's very well received, it's very well thought of. It's something that we should be proud of. I can tell you the Scholar Technician Program is something that is now copyrighted to Pickens County. You all voted to create a small business liaison manager. As I kind of wrap up the report on what Alliance Pickens has been up to, I want you to let you know that that person's been on the ground now for 7 weeks, basically the first quarter of this year so far. During that time, she has visited with 64 small businesses, 3 of the 4 chambers of commerce, has been in 3 of the 6 municipalities, has been in 18 different meetings with the Small Business Administration, other organizations like that, and is receiving technical training so that she can be a real resource to our small businesses. We're excited about this program. I think it's going to be a huge goodwill offering to our local businesses and help them grow. The ones that want to grow, we'll be able to give them the resources to grow. The other thing we did during COVID, I don't know if you recall, we partnered with the school district, and Alliance Pickens and WorkLink did drive-through job fairs at the different high schools. This is where we were able to do it and be COVID compliant. We had 28 different Pickens County companies represented, 335 jobs for Pickens County residents. We limited it to just Pickens County residents, but we were able to provide those jobs through those job fairs during COVID in a way that was compliant, and so we were very proud of that. Gentlemen, I wanted to report to you this on Alliance Pickens. Obviously, there's always more work to do. You all have given us what we've asked for, so it's going to be on us as Alliance Pickens and county staff to produce based on what you've voted to do and what money you've made available to us. So I want to keep coming back and reporting the progress that we're making. It takes all kinds of different jobs to provide for an economy. For example, I saw on Facebook just the other day that there was somebody desperately trying to get workers at $10 an hour. Those are important jobs. Some people need those jobs. Some people need those jobs done. But there's also those upper end jobs that we've got to keep aiming for. And we will, and we'll report back to you on that. Thank you for what you've done to help us in that effort so far. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Mr. Roper. Next on tonight's agenda is third reading of ordinance applying redistricting criteria for Pickens County Council districts based upon the 2020 U.S. Census. I ask for a motion and a second to constitute third reading of this ordinance.
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Feimster. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Wilson. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Mr. Seda.
Could you just review the 4 precincts that are being moved and where they're going?
Yes, Mr. Sato, for option 2, which is the one that has made it thus far through the committee process and is here recommended for you for third reading, it's the Calhoun precinct is moving from District 1 to District 2. The Norris and Prater Creek precincts are moving from District 2 to District 4, and the Skelton precinct is moving to District 3.
Thank you.
There's one more district, aren't there? 4.
Norris and Prater Creek. Is Norris and Prater Creek separate?
Yeah, that's two. Yeah, sorry, yes.
Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Thank you, gentlemen.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Wilson.
I can't remember his name, the man that just walked out has made outbursts like that on multiple occasions in front of the council, and I was understanding that there's been communication with him with regards to that. Please confirm to me that we have a policy about having professional and helpful and critical communications or whatnot with the council that doesn't require outbursts like that, and that'll be communicated to, what's his name? Alan Quinn.
Be more than happy to follow up with Mr. Quinn about outbursts, et cetera. Obviously, it looks as if he's left, so be more than happy to follow up with Mr. Quinn.
Thank you, sir.
Item number 11 on tonight's agenda is public hearing and third reading of ordinance declaring a temporary development and construction pause moratorium for 6 months in the issuance of a development and construction permits for certain residential and non-residential structures and developments along the South Carolina Highway 11 Scenic Byway while plans are conducted and applicable standards are developed and updated relative to the South Carolina Highway 11 Scenic Byway in Pickens County, South Carolina. I'll gavel us in for a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on this third reading? Seeing no one, close the public hearing. I ask for a motion and a second to constitute third reading of this ordinance.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Seda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Thamster. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to add something.
Mr. Seda.
I want to repeat why I recommended this and proposed it and why I'm going to vote for it again tonight. It's a short-term moratorium on Highway 11 against new manufacturing, new commercial development, new signage, large subdivisions. It does not affect single residential homes or subdivisions, 10 homes or less. And I want to just make this clear. The title Cherokee Foothills Scenic Highway means nothing under the law. It's not a federal or a state protected highway. You can just look at Highway 11 in Oconee County. You can see all sorts of development there. You can see it in Spartanburg. We've just been lucky. It doesn't happen here. There's no special protections on Highway 11 when it comes to county ordinances either. So you could see a dollar store crop up there. You could see a massive subdivision, clear cut 1,000 acres. If you can get the logistics right, somebody could put in a big discount store or a shopping center, and the word scenic in the title is not going to stop it. So with the growth that we're seeing, and no restrictions up on Highway 11, do we want Highway 11 in Pickens County to look like Oconee's Highway 11? That's the question, and I've been asking it to people up in Highway 11 as well as others. I've spoken to many, and actually ACOG has as well, and some of the councilmen. I hope this 6 months will give us an opportunity for those who we haven't spoken to come forward. They'll read about this in the newspaper, maybe see it on TV. They'll come forward and they'll give their input, because that's very important to the process.
Thank you, Mr. Seda. Any other questions or discussion? Mr. Roper, to date, since we've started this process of this moratorium, have we had any talks, anyone reach out, any concern over the moratorium, or any permits tried to be pulled?
We've had a few calls. A couple of folks have come and we've told them that we can't give them permits for specific uses and explained the Planning Commission process, which is they have that appeal option. But we haven't had any huge controversy about it. I think most people understand that what we're doing is just pausing until we can get some good public input on what the long-term rules will be.
And do we have any idea in that market, that area that we're discussing, that corridor, the number of, I don't think exactly how I want to ask the question. Primary residence versus secondary or commercial property along that?
We will have access to that information. I can gather it for you.
Okay.
But we do have that through the tax assessor's office.
I think that'd be something important that I thought about when this nice lady was speaking earlier.
Okay.
I kind of thought about that a little bit.
Okay.
Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 12 on tonight's agenda is the consent agenda. I have down the 2022 recreation funding request to the Committee of the Whole, 2022 accommodation tax funding request to the Committee of the Whole. I ask for a motion and a second to approve this consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Wilson, second by Vice Chairman Costner. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you, gentlemen. This brings us to item 13 on tonight's agenda, executive session. I ask for a motion and a second that we go to executive session for boards and commissions, review of applications, contractual, an update on DHEC County landfill matter, legal update on MRR. Do I have a motion and a second that we go to executive session for these stated items?
Motion?
Motion by Councilman Feimster. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Wilson. Discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you, gentlemen. We adjourn to executive session. Mr. Webster, thank you for being with us tonight. Same thing, Mr. Firth.